So I thought of these questions last night. The first one, we'll start really generic. Do you believe in love at first sight?
I don't know. That's a great question. I don't know if I've ever experienced it. I don't know that it doesn't exist, but I don't have personal experience with it. But I know, I think love can be developed pretty quickly though. Yeah.
So if love is visual first and then mental second, or is it the other way around? Because a lot of women, you have to be mentally, spiritually attracted to someone before you can be physically intimate. Mm-hmm. For men, it's the opposite.
Right. Like I can think you're attractive, but I don't fall in love with what I see. I fall in love with who you are.
So then no, love at first sight is not a thing.
I guess that's the answer. Yeah. No, because I need to know your heart in order to know if I love you. Yeah.
It's a good one. All right. We talked about situationships. What is your thoughts on friends with benefits?
I think that you have to have very two emotionally mature, communicative people for that to be even possible. And it's very dangerous territory because, at least for women, I think somebody's going to develop feelings.
Oh yeah,
and somebody's going to get hurt. And so I don't know that many mature people who can handle that. So it sounds like a fun experiment for a lot of people.
Fun.
But is it going to be conducive for a healthy dynamic? Probably not.
What's the most difficult dating situation you've been in out here? And when I say difficult, I mean you like someone, you want to get to know someone, you're interested in them, but there's some boundary, some barrier that's preventing it. Is it cultural? Is it this area? What are some of the trials and tribulations of dating in this area that you've found to be the most difficult?
Well, I haven't done a ton of dating in Vegas. I was in a relationship for a little over two years. And so I haven't been single for that long. I also dated a guy last year who was a friend. So it wasn't a friends with benefits thing. We were dating, but we weren't in an exclusive relationship, and feelings were definitely involved.
Who had feelings?
Well, we both did,
okay. But
one wanted exclusivity and wanted a deeper commitment, and one of us didn't.
Can I say which one?
I wasn't ready for that. I wasn't ready.
My guess is he was just so enamored by you that he was just like, please, Tori, please. And that is the wrong energy to be sending out when you are trying to figure out, you want to pursue at least a little bit of confidence.
Well,
right?
I had learned that I was typically in the past somebody who jumped into relationships pretty quickly and then figured out compatibility inside the relationship. And I was intentionally trying not to do that this time. And so I gave myself time, and I realized I don't owe this person a relationship. As long as I am very much communicating and open and honest about where I am. But even if I'm physically intimate with you, I used to have a connection in my brain that said, if I'm physically intimate with you, I owe you a relationship. So I worked through that, and I realized that doesn't mean I have to be in a commitment unless I want to. And I spent that time figuring out if I wanted to, and ultimately decided it wasn't the right decision for me. But yeah, someone got their heart broken in the process, and that's hard.
Slinging them arrows.
It's hard. It's hard to hurt somebody you care about. It's not fun.
That is actually, honestly, I think that's admirable that you still view it from that way, because that usually you just like, hey, this is not for me. And you got to deal with your own shit.
Because I still love that person.
Yeah.
And I still really deeply care about them. but I am looking for my forever match. And once you see certain things, you can't unsee them. And once you know that it's not right, it's kind of, I think it's wrong to string somebody along, and that it's not fair. And so even though it was hard, I had to do it. And
sometimes the hardest things are the ones that you need. He's probably watching right now.
I love you, and I'm sorry.
That was deep. That was beautiful.
Yeah. But I was always the one that got broken up with. So I'm not good at.
Really?
Yeah. Because I never had the courage.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see
Oh,
that.
really? You can see that.
Yeah, I can see that you're the nice.
I was
the good girl, right? You guys have done that episode before.
I never wanted to be the one that left.
The bitchy one,
because I always wanted to be like,
one.
I gave it everything and you're the one that left. I liked being able to stand on that, like, and feel sorry for myself. I think there was part of that too.
Do you think that evolution in how you feel about yourself has changed the kind of relationships you enter into?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I'm more secure in my truth now than I used to be. I used to be afraid of my truth, and that meant I was a bad person.
What is your truth?
Well, that I don't have to settle, and that honoring what I want and what I desire is not wrong.
That's important. When you picture yourself in the ideal relationship and you prioritize all of the things of that relationship that are important, where does sex rank on that list for you?
High. Pretty high. Yeah. I love sex. It's great. Especially if you have a powerful connection. That's the other reason why this past relationship was hard, because we had an amazing sex life. But I think
it's tough to get rid of that.
It's tough. Yeah. So that was hard. But once you experience sex as a sacred act and a spiritual exchange, the bar has been raised. And so I'm looking for a certain caliber of experience with somebody in that regard, with a deep level of presence. And there's not a ton of men out there that are at that level, but if you are, it's very important. Yeah.
I think that it's always interesting to see how that priority level changes after you enter into the relationship. And with my experience, sex just got pushed down because we were so incompatible.
Well, yeah. I mean, I was in a long-term relationship where sex was very low on the totem pole, and I had very little interest in it. It was in a different part of my life too. But I am more turned on now than I've ever been in my life.
She's super horny right now. You got to be real careful.
I mean, not in this moment, but because the reason is I'm more embodied than I'd ever been. And I love myself, and I'm more confident and more secure in my body and in my expression of myself. While when I was in my 20s, I was more insecure, more in my head, more unsure of myself, and more focused on what other people thought. Yeah.
And I think especially when you're trying to be attractive, we always think of physical qualities, which obviously is like the that's the surface level. But how much do you value the physical qualities compared to the spiritual, the mental qualities, in terms of, hey, this is more important than being hot?
I think for me, I don't have a physical type. It's really about an energy. It's a connection for me that I feel with people. And so the external is not nearly as important as the emotional, mental, spiritual component of our connection. And if that's there, there's not much that will. Obviously, I want my person to be attractive. I want to fucking bang you, but you don't need to be a 6'5" model.
A supermodel.
No.
That's it. See,
absolutely not.
I think that's a key one too, obviously.
Short kings, stay confident.
Really? What's the shortest guy?
No. I mean, like, I'm just saying, don't lose confidence. If
Just
you're
don't
a
lose
short
confidence.
king.
You never know.
Yeah.
There might be a girl out there, but it's
Totally.
probably not Tori. What's the biggest lie that men believe about dating that you can speak truth into right now?
That men believe about dating?
That, I guess it's hard, because you're not inside the mind of a man, but based off of the dates that you go on with men, I'm sure that men project a lot of deceit, shame things onto you. What's the biggest red flag? The biggest, that ain't true, that you're full of shit, that you hear on a regular basis?
Good question.
Yeah, I'm full of these.
Yeah. What's the biggest?
It could be about their families. It could be about what they are, who they are.
Well, this is for men and women. If you don't think your childhood affected you,
The relationship you have with your parents. I always say people's parents.
yeah. If you don't think, if you are still living in the like, I don't have any trauma and
how people speak about their parents and how people relate to that. If you don't have some kind of angst or anger or wanting to break out of the mold from the cocoon that your parents built for you, I don't want anything to do with you. I think that is the biggest red flag in dating is when I meet someone and then I meet their parents, if it gets to that point, and it's like you are literally still living in your mind in your childhood room. No.
Yeah, I agree.
You're a child.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, and I've experienced that, and that's been the downfall of relationships in the past.
Yeah. If you don't have that desire and that aspiration to grow from that nest, then you've literally been you've been in the same space since you were born.
Agreed.
That, I think that is the biggest red flag for me. And it doesn't have to be like a physical, like you have to live far away from them.
Or
you
hate
can live
your
down the
parents,
street.
yeah.
Like you can live down the street. It's about the way that you interact with them. It's about how you feel about them, how you talk about them. If you don't have some kind of anger or like, man, my mom did this and I don't want anything to do. Like if you like, there has to be that level of growth. Like my mom did it, my dad did it this way. I'm going to learn from it and not make those mistakes and change and grow from, because if you're still doing the things that your parents in the boomer generation in the 50s and the 60s, the world's a little different place. You got to, it's time to evolve.
Totally. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. What about when it comes to dating multiple people at the same time?
I have not gotten the hang of that. That's because here's the thing. I don't know how to do casual.
Yeah.
That's challenging for me.
When you say casual, you just mean we're going out, we're going to talk, maybe we're going to
Like
hook
casual-
up after, make out after, like you're not talking about like actual relationships. You're talking about just dating in general.
Well, you said what happens if I'm dating multiple people.
Yeah,
so I am assuming that means I'm not in a relationship.
I guess
with
I could have
anybody.
phrased that better. I guess I should say, what about just going out on dates with multiple people in a week? Do you feel that just having that, smorgasbord kind of, you have no chance to succeed with one if you've got multiple, like, because that's the issue that I've had a lot of is serial dating.
Okay.
Where it's just like repeat,
I've never done
repeat.
that.
Like every week I'll go on a date with this person and it's like, I feel like I'm not getting anywhere. It's like I'm chasing my tail.
Yeah, I've never been the girl that has like a roster of guys.
The roster, that's another good
that
term.
I'm going to
That's
see.
another word that everyone loves to use. I don't have a roster.
I don't have a roster. I like who I like. If I have a connection, I want to typically explore that and see and take it as far as I'm going to take it and then move on to the next. But doesn't mean I'm like right now I'm dating. I'm open. I'm not in an exclusive relationship. I'm seeing kind of what works for me. So I would say I'm available to date multiple people. And at the same time, I'm not like, I don't need that to.
I think it's bad for women to project that.
Yeah.
I think
I don't.
I think now the one thing I've learned about my masculinity too is that if you're not, like if the woman's projecting that off, it's a desperate thing.
Yeah.
Like you're just living in your, we have a mutual friend that described the metaphor as like women are birds. And,
I forgot that you heard this.
This is a fantastic metaphor.
Yeah.
Women are birds, and they're flying around, and they're just doing their own little thing, and the men are creating the nest. Now, the door to the nest, or I guess a cage, is open. And even if the woman flies into the cage and you're dating that woman, you cannot close the door to the cage.
And own her.
And exactly. Even if you are in a relationship, you still cannot physically close the door to the cage. Metaphorically, obviously, you're in a committed relationship. But if the woman feels like she's being trapped emotionally, spiritually, it is going to give off a very bad energy. And I think we do that when we date because we're flying into a million different cages at once. And it's impossible to really be present in one cage when you're looking over to the next one to fly.
Yeah, like I don't know how the Bachelor and the Bachelorette do it when they're like dating like 25 people at the same time.
It's crazy. I have friends that do it back to back in the same night.
Really?
Well, not in New York. I haven't done that out here, but I have done that before. In New York, I have done that before.
You're like, I'm going to get drinks with this girl and then I'm going to go to dinner with this girl.
And a lot of times during the drinks, I'm like, wrap it up here.
Yeah. Maybe I'm too, I think I do have a bit of social anxiety, which is.
That is shocking. Well, I have
to like work myself up to.
I am definitely an extroverted introvert.
Me too.
Yeah. Where you're outgoing to the people around you, but you don't like to be around that many people. Being around a lot of people drains you, but when you are around those people, you appear very extroverted. That is 100% me to a T.
Yeah. Like I get more out of one-on-one settings than big group settings, but you would see me and think Tori thrives in a group setting.
Bright light, shining.
But it's almost, I feel like I have to buzz around and talk to everybody. I can't really drop in and be present with people. And I really get the most out of my connections when I can just sit down and be one-on-one. So I think that's also what leads me to typically go deep with somebody or to like get into a relationship pretty quickly or this, that, and other. Not even, it's just when I find something I like, I do it over and over.
Do it and him over and over. What is your biggest goal with relationships this year? It doesn't have to be like find a man. Yeah,
alignment.
I like that.
Always. Yep. I'm not about forcing any type of connection in my life. What wants to come, let it come. What wants to leave, let it leave.
The bird theory.
Period. I mean,
building your own cage.
Yep. Building my nest, loving my nest, and if I find somebody who is flying in my direction and we enjoy, like, then I'm all about it. I'm available for connection and love and partnership, and I don't need to go chase anything, and I feel like the more I stay in my lane being who I am, the right people will find me. And I have a lot of great people in my life already. I try to, because I do get lonely and I do want partnership and I do want to find my person. I try to remember that that love is not out there in a relationship. It's within me. And I can experience that anytime I want in the friendships, in the community, in the family, and the people that are around me. And the more I'm secure in that, the less like I'm going to create unstable, unhealthy dynamics with men.
I think that's key. If you feel like you're actually in a safe space, if your nest is safe, then you feel comfortable to fly into other nests. The bird analogy from our friend is spot on.
Yeah.
It's changed my viewpoint on all relationships.
Okay, but can I ask you a question?
Of course.
Okay, because you said something about being trapped. A lot of men feel trapped in relationships.
Yes, they do.
How does a man not feel trapped? Is it just based on their readiness?
I think a lot of it is the codependency issue.
I do too.
I think that's the key. I think when you have, and this is why like I have changed my view on how to build relationships with women, where I feel that the physical pressure you feel to hook up, I think is not as important as the mental alignment you need to feel in like hooking up mentally. Like I want to fuck your brain before I have sex with any of your actual physical parts. Like I think that is the most important thing, because you have to just feel like you can tell that person anything, talk to that person about anything, be one with yourself with that person, and not feel like you're in that cage. I think the bird metaphor works both ways, because I do think there's a certain masculine and feminine in all of us when we're in our true light that you need to kind of exude. So if the female is a bird and the man is a cage building a nest, I think you need to have both of those inside of you, and you need to be able to fly on your own, and you need to be able to build and slow down and you know, keep things 100 on your own and in your own little nest. Yeah. So if a guy doesn't feel like he can fly, then he's going to feel trapped. If he feels like he's attached himself to one person and that person is everything, it's the codependency. You have to keep that independent self.
Right. I think so many people are afraid to lose themselves in relationships.
I completely lost myself. Yeah. Completely lost myself. People were like, I left my passion, my source, my broadcasting career because I thought it was for the greater good.
Right.
But then people were like, who are you? Like, what are you doing? And I'm more than my job, but it was just that light that you lose when you kind of give something up for the greater good that turns out to be the greater bad.
Right. Yeah. I definitely am seeing that pattern play out. I've seen that pattern play out a lot, and I'm seeing people try to actively break that pattern. And it's tough, especially when you've gone from one type of relationship that is codependent where you lost yourself to try and create something new requires you to do things in a whole different way.
Everybody wants to change, but nobody wants to actually do what's necessary to change. Yeah. That's the hard part.
Yeah. So I do think the way that you court someone, the way that you date someone, and the way that you approach relationships, you approach having sex, you approach all of those things needs to be different than the way you did it before, because otherwise you're going to end up in
Let's talk about approaches.
Okay.
What is your preferred way to be approached? And you can speak about yourself, and you can also speak generally about what you've learned from all of the other women that are in your group, because I think a big issue we have today is swipe culture's ruined approaches. Yeah. Approaches used to be like put thought into and intent and meaning. How do I get your
attention?
Yeah, like now it's just, hey babe, you up? Like, you know, a DM or a very subtle like of a story. Like it's very
I don't do that.
Nonchalant these days, where I think approaches used to be very much meaningful.
I mean, the approaches that I've had recently have been pretty direct.
That's good. Direct is good.
Yeah. They've been like,
as long as they're not like, will you
let me take you out?
That's a good one, actually. Because at least that's giving you the power. Not will you let me, you know, send me feet pictures or something.
No, it's been pretty clear and pretty direct. Like, I would love to take you out.
That's good.
Is that something you're available for?
That's a good direct message, but it's also probably electronic, right?
That was said to my face.
That's bold.
It caught me off guard.
Well done.
I know. It caught me off guard. I really respect him. And yeah, I was like, yes? Well done. I did not. But
good effort. But
it was amazing. Yeah, but I was like.
Was it random out of the blue? Like, was it a friend?
It was a friend.
Okay. It was a friend.
So recently
it wasn't just like
I've been being approached more recently, and it's been a little overwhelming. Because
you're giving off a very different energy.
Am I?
Yeah. You're giving off a hot girl energy. Yes. It's a good energy to be giving off.
Yeah, but I'm realizing I'm making myself available, and people are shooting their shot, and
humility is the ladder for which we can obtain all great things.
I have a lot of respect for a man who knows what he wants and is willing to be direct. That's hot.
Yeah.
So I don't like the bullshit. I don't like the game playing. I don't like the mental gymnastics. Like, if you're into me, approach me in a respectful, kind, intentional way. Nope. And
don't slide into the DMs. That's not a good way to ask a girl out. No. I've fallen down that path before, but sometimes you're desperate.
Yeah. But I get it. I mean, if you have no connection to this person, how else are you going to get in touch with them?
Yeah.
The people that have been asking me out lately have been in somewhat of my circle or in and around. They have met me. But I'll be honest, there was a guy that saw we're in the podcast studio right now. My photo is on the wall, and he came in and did a podcast. He saw my photo on the wall, and he asked the guy who runs the show, he was like, can you reach out to her and tell her I'm interested in meeting her? And he owns this like private jet company.
Oh, hello.
Yeah. And that was so interesting. He was like, I need to know who that is. Can you please put me in touch?
Also, like, I still would have asked for, like, so someone else reached out on his behalf.
Well, the Chris who runs this was like,
I'll be honest, that's not a direct move.
well, so I didn't go.
Yeah, like the direct move is to get your name, follow you, look you up, and reach out directly.
Yeah.
Like when we say direct, like that wasn't direct. That was kind of a coward's
like, hey,
way
can
out.
you do my
that was
for
like
me?
when you tap on your friend's shoulder, like, hey, go up to that girl and say I like her.
Exactly.
That's never gonna
Exactly,
work.
it
That
didn't work.
never works.
It didn't work.
That never works.
Yeah.
I think direct is the way to go.
But you know, that's my kind of.
You
vibe.
have to have confidence.
Have confidence.
That's the one thing I've learned too, is that I have a little bit more confidence these days. I'll just go up. My friend actually told me this. She's like, why don't you just start, and I told this to you on New Year's. I was like, just start going up to girls and just saying, hey, you're really cute. I'm really interested in getting to know you. Like, worst case scenario, you make their day. Best case scenario, you get a date. As long as you're not an asshole about it.
Well, I would prefer you would come up and have some kind of conversation before you're like, hey, can I take you out first thing?
Yeah.
But
try to find some kind of common ground or like opening line. But I think the crux of it in that line, always have this in your holster. You seem like a really interesting person. I would love to have a deeper conversation with you. Can we get me coffee?
Is that what you're doing? Is that working?
I haven't used that specific line yet, but that's in the holster.
Okay.
That's in the holster. I had a girl actually. Here's a fun story that actually happened off chance. I had a flight delayed a few days ago, and I was not happy because anytime you get delayed, your flight's delayed. You had to deplane. It was a disaster. But it was on the flight back to Vegas from Miami, and this very, very attractive girl came up to me, and she asked me like, "Hey, what's going on with the flight delay?" And so we were chatting for a little bit, and then we turned out that we both worked, and she works in sports, and we had this like really deep like conversation about, you know, Vegas and sports. She was coming into town for a work thing. She does work with like a sports consulting firm. And I was like, this is a great chicken salad out of chicken shit story where you're literally in a situation that you don't want to be in. And you're giving off this very negative flight delay energy, but then immediately you have a conversation with someone and it just shifts how you feel. So think about that. The next time you're in traffic, waiting in line, obviously if you're in traffic, you can't talk to anyone, but waiting in line, you're doing, you know, something that's negative. And see who gives off the positive energy in that room. And it is a very good way to kind of, you know, cipher through some of the weak-minded people.
Did you ask her out?
Well, she was only in town for a few days. I did ask her out. We couldn't hang out this weekend, but when I go to New York, hopefully soon, we will connect. Okay. But that's, again, one of those stories where I think when you're in a situation that you don't want to be in, like if you're waiting in line for Starbucks and you're like, oh, I'm late for work or whatever, and then you see this like really positive light, like who approaches you. In this case, I mean, women never approach me, but I think she was more interested in the flight delay, but she was just so like happy and upbeat about, hey, I'm going to Vegas for work. And like, hey, I just want to get to Vegas. And everyone else is miserable because we're delayed for 3 hours and she's this like happy shining light. It was kind of like a realignment moment. Like, hey, maybe I need to change my perspective on things. So look for those little, I call them like glitches in the matrix when you're just in your mundane life. Yeah. Just your day to day. And you never know who you're going to meet.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. If you want to get my attention, if you're trying to approach me, be consistent, be clear, do what you say you're going to do.
That's key.
That's huge. Huge. I just spit on myself.
That's okay.
That's okay.
There's worse things you could have done.
Yeah. Do what you say you're going to do. That will say a lot.
Put yourself in situations too, in areas where you feel like you want to be around that energy. Like I always tell people, like join a gym or go to a cooking class or go to a paint. I know that sounds like I go to a lot of comedy shows. Like I like people who are funny. So I like people who are into comedy. I like people who like to laugh. Like put yourself in situations that make you feel uncomfortable. Go to a place you've never been to before. Go to an opportunity that you wouldn't think to go to. Do something outside of your routine. Because if you're sitting at home lonely, I can't meet anyone, I'm going to the same bar, the same restaurant every night, do something different. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over again, expecting different results. Change your routine in some way.
I saw a TikTok the other day, and this girl was like, I hate to break it to you ladies, but if you want to find your partner, you have to get out of the house.
Yeah, go do something. And I am Mr. Self-wallow king. Like, oh, I have no plans tonight. I'm just going to, and it's really easy when you have a super adorable dog just to sit all night on the couch with him and watch Netflix. But then you don't get, then I tell myself, well, then I can't complain later that I'm bored or I'm lonely because you made the conscious choice to be with your adorable dog all night.
Yep.
But you have to put yourself in situations that make voluntary adversity. I love this phrase these days. Voluntary adversity. Put yourself, even if it's the slightest bit, you're going to like a place, you mentioned social anxiety. It's awkward to like walk into a new room that you've never walked into before and try to talk to people that you've never met before, whether it's a bar, a restaurant, comedy show, whatever. That is hard. Yeah. That is a hard thing to do. Yeah. Do it at least once a week. Just like working out. If you don't put your muscles through the tear, they're never going to grow.
True. So that's that.
That's dating.
Cool. We'll come back to this. That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.